السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. شيء المفروض العيد I got lost track of time there. شيء بسم الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وباعتبار اختلاف أحوال الرواة قلنا شرط العمل بخبر الواحد ألا يكون مخالفا للكتاب والسنة المشهورة وألا يكون مخالفا للظاهر. So based upon this, based upon the different conditions of the narrators, we say that the condition for practicing on a khabar wahid is that it does not contradict the Quran, and it does not contradict the well-known Sunnah, and it does not contradict that which is قال عليه السلام تكثر لكم الحديث بعدي فإذا روي لكم عني حديث فأعرضوه على كتاب الله فما وافق فاقبلوه وما خالف فردوه. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the number of hadith will increase after me. So therefore, if any of you learns of a hadith, you should compare it to the Quran. If it agrees with it, then accept that then accept that, and if it goes against it or it contradicts it, then it should be rejected.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So we did yesterday the condition with regards to the reward. We have a خبر واحد looking at the Sahaba. If the Sahabi, after obviously authenticating the hadith, a خبر واحد, if the Sahabi is from among the fuqaha and it goes against any qiyas, then we will accept the faqih Sahabi's riwayah and we act upon it and we'll set aside the qiyas. On the other hand, if the rawi is not known for his waqa'at and so forth, then we will continue to remain or we'll stick to the accepted principles that we have gathered from the hadith and Quran itself, and we will give some explanation, some ta'wil for that particular hadith. And then he gave an example of the hot water. A second example is giving here. وعلى هذا ترك أصحابنا رواية أبي هريرة في مسألة المصرات بالقياس. So based upon this principle, and I remember yesterday I said that although Abu Hurairah that is mentioned here as an example, he is generally considered to be from amongst the fuqaha. Anyway, so we set aside this hadith because it goes against the accepted principles. What is musarat? Musarat is where a person he deliberately does not milk his animal, and then he puts it up for sale. Now, obviously, when he puts it up for sale, the main thing the person wants to see if it's a milk-giving animal, does this animal deliver a high volume of milk or not? So now, when he's in front of the potential customer, he milks the goat or the cow, whatever it is. A lot of milk comes out because he has not been milking the cow or the goat or the animal for a few days or very little. So as a result of which the others are quite full. So when the customer sees that, he becomes duped, he becomes fooled into thinking that this is a milk-giving animal. It provides a lot of milk. So he then buys that animal. But then after a couple of days, realizes that he was taken in. This animal, the volume, the daily volume is nothing like what it was when I first got the animal. Since he comes to realize that he might have been fooled. So he is then allowed, according to the hadith, is allowed to get a refund for that animal. But then the hadith also says that together with returning the animal, he can, if he's happy to keep the animal, he can keep the animal. But if he's not happy, then raddaha wa sa'u tamar, then he must return the animal. And together with the animal, he must give one saw of dates. Right? One saw of dates. So now, what is the one saw of dates for? Returning the animal, fine, but what is the one saw of dates? So the one saw of dates, the other ulama would take this hadith, they say that is compensation for the days that this customer had the animal and he was taking benefit from the animal's milk. So we say the Ahnaf say, but okay, this goes against the accepted principle. What is accepted principle? If you use a person's item, it's the alaq takes place, meaning that the item cannot be, that the item is lost. in this case, the milk, he milked it and he drank it or whatever, you can't get it back. So you can't return the milk. So in the case of istihlal, either if it is a mithli, I think, something which does find its like in the market, you have to replace it with its like. Otherwise, you have to give the qimat of it. You have to give the value of that item. You did it in ada and qada. So here, the dates is neither. The dates is not a mithli item, and neither is qima. Neither are you repaying the value of the milk that you use for the few days that you had the item. So this goes against the normal accepted principle of ada when it comes to istihlak. So that's why in this case here we don't go according to this hadith. We will say why that this star of dates is not a batla, is not in lieu of the milk, but rather on this particular occasion Nabi Sallam recommended it because that was equal to the value of the milk. And it was equal to the value of the milk that particular person used. So this was not a standard ruling, but it was the advice of Nabi Sallam given to that particular Sahabi in this particular instance. Allah Alam. Anyway, so this is not because Abu Hurairah is not a faqih. There are other reasons why we don't go by this particular hadith. Understood that? Now he's saying, now we go on to the next thing. So keeping in mind that sometimes we have khabr al-wahid like this, and we after authenticating it, it can contradict certain principles and so forth. So based upon this, we will say, one of the conditions of making amal, one of the conditions of practicing of the khabr al-wahid is as follows. So that's what he's mentioning in today's salah. وباعتبار اختلاف أحوال الرواة, considering the different conditions of the narrators, قلنا, we say, شرط الأمر بخبر واحد. One of the conditions, not the only condition, one of the conditions for practicing upon خبر الواحد is ألا يكون مخالفا للكتاب والسنة المشهورة. It must not contradict the Quran Kareem, nor must it contradict the first two categories, the mutawatir or the mashhur hadith. وألا يكون مخالفا للظاهر, and secondly, secondly, it must not also contradict the obvious. It must not contradict what is obvious. I mean, if the hadith is obviously incorrect, then obviously we know there's something not right there. There's something wrong, not quite right. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Now this is not actually a hadith, understand? Although the author is quoting it, this hadith has not been found by anyone. So because obviously such a hadith did exist, then all the imam would have practiced upon it, but that's not the case. Anyway, Khairi's got it here. So he's saying Nabi Sallallahu said, Wallahu Alam, right? فَتَكْثُرُ لَكُمُ الْأَحَادِيث بَعْدِي. That ahadith will become will become common amongst you after me. فإذا روي لكم عني حديث فأعرضوا على كتاب الله. So then, if any hadith is narrated, you meaning that you doesn't seem to be 100%, then compare it upon the Quran or compare it to the Quran. فما وافق فاقبلوه. So whatever agrees to the Quran, complements the Quran, accept it. وما خالف فردوه. Whatever contradicts the Quran, then reject it. And although we don't find this hadith, we find the Sahaba, this was a practice of the Sahaba. This was a practice of the Sahaba that if a Khabr al-Wahid came to them and it either contradicted a clear-cut text or it contradicted what they knew of the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then they would not accept it. Why? Because if it contradicts the Quran, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam couldn't have said that. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam can't have said something that goes against the Quran, especially obviously against. So we will say either the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam meant something else in this particular instance, or the narrator got it wrong. Understand? So that was the practice of the Sahaba. So the principle that is mentioned is fine, although this is not actually a hadith as such. Anyway, وَتَحْقِيقُ ذَلِكَ فِيمَا رُوِيَ عَنْ عَلِيَّ بْنِ طَالِبٍ. And the investigation or the explanation of that is what is narrated from Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib رضي عنه. قال كانت الرواة على ثلاثة أقسام. That narrators were three types. That meaning that after Nabi Sallallahu, the time of Sahaba, especially after the assassination of Sayyidina Uthman, especially after that time. A mu'minun mukhlisun. a true mu'min صاحب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعرف معنى كلامه that he stayed in the company of the Prophet for a significant amount of time, and he understood he understood the meaning of the Prophet's speech. وأعرابي جاء من قبيلة فسمع بعد ما سمع ولم يعرف حقيقة كلام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And number two, a Bedouin who would come from outside from his tribe, now and then he would hear something of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam without understanding fully what the Nabi was saying because of his uh, what you call because he was not in the constant companionship. He would come now and then, so he perhaps didn't understand the context, or he caught part of what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and he'd go back. فرجع إلى كبيرته, then he would return to his tribe. فروى بغير لفظ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He would narrate what he heard, but in his own words, not in the words of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, thinking that he understood what the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. فتغير المعنى, but because he's saying it in what he thought he understood in his own words, not exactly what the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the meaning of what was being said changes. وهو يظن أن المعنى لا يتفاوت, while he assumes that the meaning has not changed. It's no different than what he said, what the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Okay? And thirdly, ومنافق لم يعرف نفاقه ولم يعرف نفاقه. Thirdly, a munafiq, a hypocrite, whose nifaq was unknown. فروى ما لم يسمع, so he would narrate things that he did not hear. Like I said, especially after Saint Uthman, you find the Khawarij came about, the Shia started up, and so on and so forth. They are known as the Wafid in those days. وافترى, and he would fabricate against the Nabi. فسمع منه أناس فظنوه مؤمنا مخلصا. So some people would hear this hadith from a fabricated hadith, thinking him to be a true mu'min. فروى ذلك, and فرووا ذلك, they would narrate this as a hadith. واشتهر بين الناس, and it would become commonplace amongst the people. It would gain prominence amongst the people. Okay? فلهذا المعنى وجب عرض خبر على الكتاب. So it is for this reason it is compulsory to compare that قبل الواحد or to the Kitab Allah, والسنة المشهورة, and the خبر الواحد المشهور. ونظير العرض على الكتاب في حديث مس الذكر. An example of doing so, comparing a hadith to the kitab and seeing whether it lines up or not, قبل الواحد, sorry, is the hadith of مس الذكر, of touching one's private parts. So some ulama say that if you touch your private parts, your wudu breaks. فيما يروى عنه, from what is narrated from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, من مس ذكره فليتوضأ. The person who touches his private part, he must make wudu, a male. فعرضناه على الكتاب. So we compare this to the kitab. فخرج مخالفا لقوله تعالى في رجال يحبون أن يتطهروا. And we found that it contradicts the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said with regards to the people of Quba, that in that masjid, there are such men, such people, يحبون أن يتطهروا. They love to be very, very clean. فإنهم كانوا يستنجون بالأحجار. So why? Because they were in the habit of making istinja firstly with stones, ثم يغسلون بالماء. Then they would wash their privates with water. Understand? They'd use both. They combine both stones in our times, like toilet paper and any other cleaning agent, and then use water. So they would together with that they use water. So Allah is describing it as tatahur, whereas the meaning of the qabl wahid is that it is a najasa. When you touch your zakar, it's because of the najasa, because you're in an impure state, now the wudu breaks. ولو كان مس الذكر حدثا, if touching the private part was an act that nullified the wudu, لكان هذا تنجيسا, and this would be an act that causes najis, that causes impurity. لا تطهير, not تطهير, as mentioned in the Quran, أن يتطهروا, على الإطلاق. وكذلك قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, similarly the statement of Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم, أيما امرأة نكحت نفسها بغير إذن وليها فنكاحها باطل باطل باطل. Any woman who gets herself married without the permission of a wali qadim, then her nikah is invalid, invalid, invalid. خرج مخالفا لقوله تعالى. This outwardly, superficially seems to contradict the statement of Allah Ta'ala فلا تعدلهن أن ينكحن أزواجهن. فإن الكتاب يوجب تحقيق النكاح منهن. Because the other kitab has accepted the implementation of the nikah from the woman. Why? Because أي ينكحن is جمع مؤنث. So the act of getting married is being made mansur, attributed to the females, that they get married to the previous spouses, that they marry themselves to the previous spouses. So yeah, the Quran is saying that they can get themselves married. Okay?
जी
Okay, shall I stop here, inshallah? Time is up. Okay, it's not a lot left, much more left. Just this discussion, and then after that, the occasions that we can use the Qabl al-Wahid. Or when will it become a Hujjah? In which type of Masail? So inshallah, we'll try and bring as much as we can after one. This is your last week, eh?
जी
Okay, inshallah, we should be able to finish it, inshallah. Bismillah ta'ala. Okay, any questions, anything you didn't understand?
الحمد لله understood.
understood from my side.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah. Right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.